Coming up next on Tech News Today, Apple showed off its long-awaited update to the MacBook Pro line, including the new Touch Bar and OLED panel. Very cool stuff. Also, Amazon's record-breaking earnings streak ends with this quarter. Alphabet continues to soar thanks to its mobile and video ad efforts. Twitter has a pretty good quarter, but it isn't enough to keep Jobs and Vine from being dropped. And analyzing the World Series with the power of Google's cloud platform. All that and more with Ron Richards along with me up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit. Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1629, recorded Thursday, October 27th, 2016. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Epson's new EcoTank printers. With Epson's line of SuperTank all-in-one printers, you can print thousands of documents without running out of ink. EcoTank is loaded and ready to print when you are. Visit epson.com/EcoTank to find out more. Hello and welcome to Tech News Today, the show where we talk about some of the biggest tech news stories with people who are passionate about technology. I'm Jason Howell. Megan Maroney out on assignment. She'll be back tomorrow. Bringing back to the show, always happy to have my good friend Ron Richards on the show. How you doing, Ron?
I'm doing well, Jason. Thanks for having me on an exciting day where I can talk about anything but the Samsung Note.
Yes, I know, right? Thankfully, the Note has kind of fallen off a cliff on the other end. And what I've noticed though is that Samsung rumors on the Note on the Galaxy S8 line are fast and furious right now. They're coming out like this, so you know someone on Samsung is like, "We got to divert. We got to do something.
We got to get something." But it's nice to be on a day where we can talk about Apple and some of the other companies in the in the tech area than the usual Android stuff that we're always talking about on Tuesdays.
Absolutely. So let's get right to it. Obviously, Apple had a big event this morning, their Hello Again event. As expected, they unveiled the latest entries into their laptop hardware catalog. There's the new 2016 MacBook Pros, the first meaningful design upgrade to the lineup in years. They've done some spec upgrades underneath the hood, but this is like a big full-on design upgrade as well. They've swapped the function key row with a multi-touch enabled OLED panel called the Touch Bar. And that, of course, as rumors were hinting at, changes contextually based on what app is currently in use on the screen, what the context matches the context on your keyboard to what you're doing on the screen. There's also Touch ID integrated into that strip onto the far right side for Apple Pay and security integrations. Apple trimmed down the size of the new laptops, making them thinner and lighter than any MacBook Pro before them. They went time and time again, went back to that thinner, lighter, blanker. And Apple included 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports, 2 on each side for power and expandability. Prices are going to begin at $12.99 for a 13-inch version that does not have the Touch Bar, all the way up to $23.99 to start for the 15-inch version that does include the Touch Bar. What do you think? Are you a MacBook Pro, diehard MacBook Pro user? Is this compelling enough for you to upgrade?
I have been a MacBook Pro user for nearly 10 years now. 2007 is when I jumped from Windows to Macs and never looked back. This is long overdue. I mean, that goes without saying. This was two thoughts. It was long overdue, and that because it was so long overdue, it really needed something to make the wait justified. And in looking at this announcement, I give it a 90% sexy. in that like I feel like the thinness and the weight and all the display, all that sort of stuff is all in the right direction. It's thinner, lighter than ever before. We expect that now. I think the Touch Bar is awesome. In fact, I believe it was on this show or on another show, Jason, we talked about, remember I speculated about the use of OLED? We were talking, it was speculated to be e-ink. Remember we had talked about that?
Yeah, there's a rumor that might happen eventually still, but who knows? Yeah.
Right. And I had said, forget e-ink, why not OLED? And I was glad to see that I was right in that they used OLED technology for the Touch Bar. I love the idea of contextual menus. If I'm using Photoshop, give me buttons that are related to Photoshop, et cetera. They saw some great demos with the CEO of Algorithm doing the demo DJ, which is great for DJing. Yep. Very cool stuff. It doesn't get a full 100% sexy for me because you just get the sense that the folks at Apple aren't talking to one another because it has a headphone jack. I thought headphone jacks were old technology.
I don't know. I'll give them a thumbs up for that. Keep it in.
Well, I do too. But you want, you made this whole big deal a month ago about the headphone jack was dead, and now it's got it in here. It's all Thunderbolt ports, no USB. Nothing like that. So lots of people who have iPhones, old iPhones that only connect via USB, how are they going to connect? Like the adherence to their proprietary connectors really bother me. Just put a USB port on there, put a USB-C port on there. Those are the areas that I was really disappointed in. But other than that, I think, this is really, really interesting stuff in an interesting direction. And I'm curious to see where they take the touch bar technology from here.
Yeah, I think the ethos is there. Like yes, the headphone jack is still here, and that doesn't gel with their rationale for including it on the iPhone and not here. But the same ethos is driving a lot of what they're doing with the Thunderbolt 3 ports, in the sense that we've trimmed down the number of different disparate ports that do all these different things and given you instead these multi-purpose ports that do all those things. Asterisk, as long as you have the right dongle to do those things and you may remember to bring it with you.
Right. And if you ask me, nothing is not sexy as having multiple dongles hanging off your laptop. That drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Some of these connectors, and I'm all for the most efficient and best performance and all this sort of stuff, but USB is a universal standard that has been adopted by thousands of hardware manufacturers. And to require a dongle for it to work with this new laptop is a pain in the butt, which I think they could have just easily rectified by having one USB port on there. How hard would that be? Sure. And then if you'd have more USB devices, then get a USB dongle, and there goes with their dongle philosophy. But just give me one. I don't know.
I like that. The dongle philosophy. All right, so yeah, I'm not really sure how I feel about the Lightning ports. I'm at least happy that they give you 4, so that if you are using this in professional, scenarios where you want, a couple of monitors and you want to drive a mixer, an external mixer or whatever, it gives you at least a little bit of expandability beyond just 1 or 2 ports. Also lets you plug your power on either side, and that's nice. No more MagSafe, so the MagSafe is gone. A lot of people were kind of bummed about that. Some people actually don't care because they don't like MagSafe. Butterfly keys, so it's a lower profile keyboard. And I haven't really had much time typing on the butterfly key approach. Andy Anatko, we did the live coverage, Megan, myself, and Andy this morning, and he is not a fan at all of the butterfly keyboard, so he's really not looking forward to the fact that they've done that here.
I get the sense that Andy is very much like me, in that I like a big, heavy keyboard that goes clack, clack, clack as you type
travel.
And the butterfly keys, I have not had a ton of experience on them. I've typed on a couple of them here and there, and I haven't liked it either. But I think that's just one of the things where they're going for slim, they're going for light, and butterfly works in that direction better than physical clack, clack, clack keys.
Right. And then, of course, the touch bar. On one hand, it feels like Apple's moving, kind of tipping their toes into the touchscreen sort of thing. But then I read this interview with Johnny Ive and Schiller to CNET, where they reiterated, and they've said this time and time again in the past, full touchscreen Macs aren't particularly useful, they say. They say it's a burden when Apple is really aiming for thinner and lighter. So a lot of these changes, sometimes they are driven, and same goes for the headphone jack, same goes for the combining all the ports into these multi-purpose ports. A lot of the decisions are driven around this kind of push to make a smaller form factor, a tighter, kind of sexy looking device on its own, but it brings with it some baggage.
Yeah, and it also brings challenges for accessibility and issues around that, and
big time.
So someone who knows what the keyboard layout is can use the keys whether they can see them or not. But this touch bar brings a lot of challenges, because if you're blind, you can't see what's on that touch bar.
Yeah, which is very interesting because they led the entire event. The very first thing you even saw if you tuned in was a 2-minute video dedicated to how devoted Apple is to accessibility features. And then their key feature in this laptop, they didn't mention anything about accessibility. And I mean, it's a screen, so there is no tactile aspect to it. I have to imagine that's not very good for accessibility. So it was a strange contrast.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is that unfortunately, you can't make everybody happy all the time, right?
Yeah.
So you pick and choose your battles, and Johnny Ive and has clearly stated this is what we're going for. This is the design profile we're going for. It's completely thin, light, not burdensome, and the hardware philosophy aligns with the software philosophy, in that it should be easy to use and accessible and all that sort of stuff. Time will tell whether it is. I mean, you got to put it to user testing to find out. Yeah. But hey, if you were married to an escape key, you can kiss that sucker goodbye unless your app needs it, because this escape key is gone. So
having said that, on a personal level, I'm very curious and interested. I know we're going to be getting one of these in our household. My wife is in dire need of an upgrade to her MacBook, and she's been waiting for this. So, tell you how it goes.
I mean, the thing is, I love it. I love the touch. I think it's so cool, and I want one just to play with it. And whether or not we actually use it or not, but I think it's just seeing this video now. It just looks so. I just want to play with it. So,
absolutely. Apple's also working with LG to create a new 5K monitor designed specifically for the new MacBook Pro. The 27-inch 5K ultra-fine display has built-in speakers, a microphone, a camera, 3 additional downstream Thunderbolt ports for further expandability and accessories. To show off the power of the higher-end MacBook Pro and the expandability of the 4 Thunderbolt ports included with the laptop, Apple showcased 2 of these LG 5K monitors connected to and being driven by the 2016 MacBook Pro simultaneously, along with a few other accessories connected for good measure, which was kind of a very good kind of demonstration of like, this MacBook Pro is power. Check it out.
Yep. I love a good monitor, and this had me salivating. So.
Yeah, 5120 by 2880 resolution. It's currently unavailable on Apple.com, but they say it's launching in December. One thing I thought was kind of curious is does this mean that Apple, at least for the time being, has kind of given up on its standalone displays? It had the cinema displays. They haven't been doing that, and now this is like a collaboration with LG as opposed to Apple's new amazing 5K display.
Oh yeah, no. If you remember back in the summer in June, they discontinued the Thunderbolt display. So earlier this summer, they disconnected the only monitor they were still making at the time. Right. And I'm pretty sure that this is from that moment on, Apple was out of the monitor business. They just for whatever reason the cost and the scales or whatever just didn't make any sense. Right. And so now they're going to depend on partners like LG, which makes sense. Because if you remember back in the day, those sexy Apple monitors were just Dell monitors wrapped in an Apple bezel. So, Yeah,
I had one of those at my desk here at Twit for years. Yep. I held on to that sucker because it was huge, and now it would be not nearly as good. Good professional tool, let's say. Why do you need 5K? I don't know if you necessarily need 5K, and the cost of this one. What was it? I can't remember. I had the cost in here at some point. It's somewhere around like $1,300.
A lot of money.
Yeah, it's $1,299.95. You probably don't necessarily you need to know that you need a 5K monitor, and this is really good for content creators. If you're creating 4K content, that allows you to see that in really good resolution while you're working on it. So that's kind of what it's aimed at, I think.
Yeah, I don't know who or what it's aimed for. I just know that I want one
because it is what it is.
That's just techno lust.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Fair enough. Apple also gave a nod to the Apple TV, but not by updating the hardware in any way. This time they really didn't need to. Instead, Apple announced a new app for the platform as well as for iOS devices called simply TV. The goal is to unify and recommend the best digital content provided by up to 1,600 video content providers inside one app. It works with Siri for voice commands, integrates single sign-on, so accessing content from the different services doesn't require constant login processes. One thing that is missing, however, or actually 2 things, any sort of Netflix or Amazon content support. The TV is going to be available. TV, the app, not the TV, but TV, the app will be available for download by the end of the year in the U.S. for free. It's a big miss. Like, I understand Amazon, and that's kind of, Amazon just is weird like that. Like, they're like, no, we don't want to do Apple TV. We do our own blah, blah, blah. But Netflix has really had a strategy of being very kind of sharey with access to its content. And not to mention, they were on with Universal Search in the beta of that when that launched. So I don't understand why Netflix is not part of this, at least at this point. They say they're evaluating it.
Well, there's an argument to be made that when you dance with everybody at the ball, your attractiveness decreases. So maybe Netflix is working on trying, because the thing is also aside, I mean, Stranger Things and The Get Down and Orange is the New Black aside, Netflix's other content library is dwindling to the point of where it's like I barely ever watch anything on Netflix for movies or anything like that. I go to other places. So is the fact that Netflix is missing just like, oh, that logo that I recognize isn't there, but the majority of stuff you want to watch can be found elsewhere. They have 1,600 other locations to watch stuff. So maybe they don't need Netflix as much as they used to.
I don't know. I think they would. I think if they wanted to prove how awesome this app is, they probably want Netflix, because Netflix is just such a household name, and their original content. Like, I would argue, I pay for the monthly subscription for Netflix now, not for their movie library. I pay for their originals. Their originals are good enough to validate that for myself.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, watch The Get Down. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But I just thought this is funny because how many years have we been waiting for Apple to release a TV product? Like there were rumors of an actual TV and all this sort of stuff. And now I wonder if this application is the kind of thing that can be OEM'd out and basically be like a Plex or some other, kind of and run their software on actual physical TVs as opposed to via an Apple TV. Of course, there's no mention of that, and that requires all that sort of, all those deals and that sort of thing. But it's Apple's approach to television and entertainment still continues to perplex me, and I still feel like they treat it like a hobby with the original, like what the Apple TV has always been, is for hobbyists. Right. And looking at this, I'm a Plex guy, and I'm not, I don't have an Apple TV, like I'm a cord cutter and all that sort of stuff. But this didn't wow me from that kind of standpoint. It's just like, oh, so they just made an app that aggregates all TV, great. Just Watch does that, or Pluto does that, or so many other things that I use that already do this.
Yeah, probably not a cord cutter tool necessarily, because you still need to have, for a lot of those apps, you still need to have some sort of authentication that you are a cable subscriber, let's say, in order to authenticate access to that content. So it's not necessarily replacing the content that you would get on TV. It's just making the stuff you kind of already have in this sense, maybe a little bit easier to find in a searchable way. At least that's the promise of it. Or recommending based on your viewing habits and going, well, we see you like this, you'll probably like this too. But again, I mean, I feel like a lot of companies are doing that sort of thing, and I have yet to see that and be like, this is why I come back, because it recommends the best things for me. It's a nice feature to have. It's just not a driver.
And I don't think this TV apps was the thing. Like, this solves TV today.
Right.
Like, TV and entertainment still is a big question that hasn't been solved. There's more content than ever. It's harder to find everything. Needle in a haystack problem. And I think Apple made some steps forward in terms of accessing that stuff, but I don't think it's the oh my God, look, this is the solution. I'm not running out to buy an Apple TV now.
Yeah. They probably hoped for a lot more, and this is the alternative. And so I don't know how many people that makes happy, but there you go. That'll come out at the end of the year. In non-Apple-y news, Amazon held, and pretty much almost for the rest of the show, we've got earnings, because today was big. Like 3 major players reported earnings today. Amazon held its third quarter earnings after 3 straight record-breaking quarters. Amazon posted $252 million for the quarter, breaking its profit streak, its record-setting profit streak. The company came in well below the 78 cents per share that analysts were estimating was 52 cents a share is what they came in at. That saw stock trading down around 6% in after-hours trading. Amazon Web Services, its cloud computing infrastructure, continued to perform with $3.23 billion in revenue for the quarter. That's up 54.9% year over year. AWS is just a monster, continues to be. It reports $3.2 billion in revenue in Q3 2016. That's up 55% over last year.
Yeah, that's the real secret weapon of Amazon. We talk about Amazon and what they're doing. Like we kind of take for granted the shipping and the logistics and all that sort of stuff because we just depend on it now. And then we're seeing a lot of expansion into hardware with Echo and the Dash buttons and things like that, and IoT. And then we see what they're doing on the media side of things. But AWS is the stuff that powers it all, and pretty much every other app you use on the web or on mobile apps. Seeing how everybody uses the being able to spin up another server and having all the storage you need and all that sort of stuff, leveraging that infrastructure is like the killer app that Amazon has made. It's just and I'm not surprised to see the thing driving a lot of revenue for them, because that's actually something that makes money.
Yeah, for sure. Amazon's looking for AWS to be half of their earnings in a few years' time. So, that just kind of, wow, what a good alternative thing to have going on in the background. You know, you've got something when it becomes half of your earnings, and especially when you're talking about Amazon money, because they are just knocking it out of the park continually. So even here, it's not like they did horribly. It's just they came in under estimates, and after 3 straight quarters of breaking records. So it didn't do horrible. It's just, Wall Street, likes to hold feet to the fire, and in this case, they didn't break records again. So that's bad.
It's the expectation problem. If everybody expects you to make 78 cents per share, and you come in at 52 cents per share, they go, "Where'd that 20 cents go that we thought you were going to make us?"
We already decided on that new car we were going to buy with that extra money. We're like, what's going on here? And let's see here. Yeah, obviously Amazon's kind of getting ready for the holiday rush too, because that the fourth quarter is their biggest time of year. And so they even said, this is the time where we kind of batten down the hatches, get ready for that holiday push. They're adding 120,000 seasonal jobs, plans to convert many of those people to full-time employees after the holidays, as they did last year when they did the same thing. So I'm sure they're going to do all right.
I'll tell you what, and I'll make you really sad, Jason, is that I actually purchased my first Christmas gift the other day. So
it's that time.
It has started. Yeah. I'm trying to get ahead of it this year, but So Amazon's the go-to place.
What did you get me?
Well, I can't tell you here. I got to wait till December, Jason. So.
All right, fine. I'll wait. Alphabet also reported its quarterly earnings that topped analyst estimates of $22.05 billion, revenue of $22.45 billion, what they came in at, so they beat it. That's an increase of 20% over this time last year. Alphabet also announced that it has authorized more than $7 billion in Class C capital stock buybacks this month. Positive results saw shares jump 12% in after-hours trading, so very positive. Alphabet attributes its success to its core mobile search and video products because, it's all about ads. And 90-some-odd% of everything that happens with Alphabet right now is all about its ads business.
Well, and it's funny that they called out mobile search and video products, because I was just the other day I was reading an article from Suzanne Wojcicki from YouTube, who was talking about how YouTube specifically wasn't in any state of profitability, and they consider YouTube to be investment mode right now. And when you think about what they're investing in, they're investing in product and content and ad serving. Right?
Oh, for sure.
And so think about how many videos you've watched on YouTube and an ad pops up or that sort of thing. That's what they're working on. And YouTube by itself might not be profitable, but Alphabet as a whole clearly is benefiting from that work.
YouTube as a delivery mechanism, like an entirely new, successful, hot platform. I say new. Yep. I don't mean like YouTube is new. It's by far anything but new. But just another delivery mechanism for those ads. And you see them all the time, so it's perfect. Other bets. Operations lost still right at around $865 million. That, of course, includes X, which are kind of the moonshots, Verily, which is life sciences, Fiber, which was paused as of yesterday. They're really kind of tightening the ship a little bit on those other bets. A lot of those things that were broken out during the Alphabet transition reorganization to kind of make sure, all right, we just aren't throwing money away at random ideas anymore. You got to prove yourself. That continues, especially in light of Fiber being paused. And then we don't really know much about hardware. I got my Pixel, so I'm happy about that hardware. I don't know how much that's going to move the needle over the next 3 months, but this next quarter would be the quarter where it tells us if it's material at all to kind of Alphabet's bottom line.
Yeah, I think in 2017 we'll hear about Q4's performance and whether or not the Pixel phones, the Google Home, the Chromecast, all that stuff, that all is adding up to an impactful holiday season, like I think they're hoping for. Sure. And that said, it's we're a week away from our Google Home delivery, so I'm counting the days till I get mine. So
open.
Yeah.
All right, coming up, big time shakeup at Twitter. But before we talk about that, let's take a minute to thank Epson. They're the sponsor of this episode. Epson's revolutionary cartridge-free EcoTank line of printers for home and office introduce a new age in printing. The EcoTank ET4550 wireless all-in-one printer doesn't use ink cartridges. Features an amazing, innovative, refillable ink tank. That's earned it the title of CES 2016 Innovation Awards honoree. So you're not going to get frustrated anymore around your ink. No more frustration on those cartridges or anything like that. It includes up to 2 years of ink, equal to 11,000 black pages or 8,500 color pages. You can save up to 80% on ink with low-cost replacement bottles. It's powered by Precision Core's printing technology. It has auto two-sided printing and a 30-page auto document feeder. There's easy wireless printing from tablets and smartphones. I can tell you firsthand, that's not always the easiest thing in the world. It should be. Well, here you go. This makes it a whole lot easier. All EcoTank printers deliver an unbeatable combination of convenience and value. With Epson's EcoTank line of printers, you'll have the freedom to print without running out of ink. The Epson EcoTank system was named the 2016 Small Biz Windows Printer of the Year. Visit Epson.com/EcoTank today to transform the way your home office or workgroup prints. For the best combination of ease and value, turn to the Epson EcoTank printers. That's EPSON.com/EcoTank. And we thank Epson for their support. Epson, exceed your vision. All right, Twitter also held its quarterly earnings, and joining us to talk about some of the big news to come from that announcement is Kurt Wagner from Recode. How's it going, Kurt?
Hey, Jason, what's up?
Not a whole lot. Great to have you back. I thought this was the perfect opportunity to bring you in because we got not one, not two, but probably three major things to come out of Twitter's earnings. First thing being that they actually beat expectations on user growth for a change. That never happens.
Who would have thunk? I know. Yeah, the actual numbers themselves were not bad. They were at least in line with what people expected. At the risk of being the rain cloud here, they did decrease the guidance that they did last quarter. So they kind of like set the bar a little bit lower for themselves and then were able to hop over it. But still, they did what Wall Street wanted them to do from a metric standpoint. And so that is a win for Twitter because they haven't been able to do that lately.
And they've had the kind of their expanded video efforts happening now for at least a couple of months. Is there any kind of correlation between increased eyeballs, increased attention? I know that you don't necessarily have to sign in to use those products, but could there be some sort of like carry-on effect from that?
They attributed their success for the quarter to a couple other things. They said that, one, their algorithmic timeline, which is where they're showing people tweets not necessarily in chronological order, but the things that they think you'll want to see, they'll show you that first. They said that was better. And then I'm blanking on the other thing that they had. Oh, the notifications. They said that they also got better with notifications in terms of being sure to, kind of push you to see the stuff that you actually want to see. So that's what they said improved the numbers this quarter. The live stuff they had basically preached. They said this is still super early. They only had 2 of their NFL streams in Q3. The rest are going to be in Q4. So I think it'll be a better, we should check in again in a couple months basically and see how Q4 goes because we're going to have a much larger sample size. So I think live is still very much a part of their future, something they're really excited about. I don't think that it was responsible for what we saw in Q3.
And hey, Kurt, seeing Twitter on stage at the Apple event, though, talking about the Twitter experience on TV and live events has really got you think that A, they're investing a lot of it, but Apple's got to believe it too if they'd invite them onto this presentation, right?
I think so. I mean, clearly that this is important for Twitter. It's kind of like their big it may not necessarily be driving all the change we saw in Q3, but it's certainly the thing that people asked the most about on the earnings call. All the analysts were asking how it was going, if they were, going after more deals, what the revenue was like from that. So it's a very interesting business for them at the moment. And you could see why Apple, given that they have Apple TV, given their announcements around trying to help people find stuff to watch, you can see why they might want to, work with someone like Twitter, who is really putting a lot of eggs in this basket.
For sure. All right. Number 2 in 3 marquee things from the announcement. And this is, not so awesome, I'm sure, for a lot of people. They announced impending layoffs. I don't know. What can you tell us about the layoffs? How is this going to impact them in the next quarter?
So they're announcing, as you can read there, 9% of their workforce ends up being about 350 people or so. Jobs were cut today. Primarily, a lot of those were on the sales team, on the marketing team, partnerships. And I guess there's a couple there's a benefit. Let's start with the positive, I guess, if you want to look at it this way, is that they're trimming costs, right? I mean, a couple of analysts I spoke to and read said anywhere from $50 million to even $100 million in costs could be stripped over the next year because of eliminating those jobs. The downside is that Twitter did not provide any guidance for Q4 or next year, which basically means they did not predict where their revenue is going to come over the next 3 months or even the next 6 to 12 months. That's concerning, right? Because now we have no idea how kind of Twitter is viewing the own health of its business. And as a result, it's kind of risky because if they come in and they don't hit whatever the outside world expects them to, it could be another poor quarter next quarter. But the reason is, if they're getting rid of a lot of sales positions, they're naturally going to sell less stuff. At least that's the thinking. So we don't really know much about that. But at the moment, it seems like a cost-cutting, restructuring kind of move. Like, let's focus everything on this big blue Twitter app and forget about some of the side stuff that we've been working on.
And with the layoffs coming, I'd seen some rumors. There's some folks saying that these layoffs and these restructuring were happening in reaction to some of the rumors about Twitter's sale to a Salesforce or a Disney or other companies like that, and that a lot of them walked away from the table. And this was a cost cutting and organizational change to try to get people to come back to the table. Did that come up at all on the call, or are people chatting about that, or is the Twitter sale conversation over?
Definitely didn't come up on the call. It was actually funny. The very first thing CEO Jack Dorsey addressed was he was like, our board is focused on long term. That's it. That's the only thing I'm going to talk about in terms of M&A. And he moved on immediately. I think it's an interesting theory, though. I think that the cost was the biggest hurdle for anyone looking at buying Twitter. I mean, I think it was estimated anywhere from $20 billion to 20 above that 25. And I just don't think that for a company that's not profitable, that's a good buy for a lot of these Disney and Salesforces of the world. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they had initial conversations with folks and this was the feedback, right? You're too expensive. You're too bloated as a company. And Twitter says, well, in order to be more attractive to a potential suitor and also just for the health of our own business, these are moves, tough decisions that we have to make. I don't know if these moves were necessarily made specifically to try and bring people back to the table. I think it could be a benefit.
Speaking of tough decisions, there's Vine. Oh, you remember Vine, right? Twitter announced it would shut down the Vine app in the coming months. I don't know. Did you see this coming, Kurt?
I did.
I
didn't see it coming today, but I think anyone who followed Vine saw this, the writing on the wall. A lot of their executives had been, left the company over the last 6 to 12 months. The app was not growing anymore. Yeah, and so when you look at those kinds of things, it's not necessarily a good use of Twitter's time or energy to keep up a network where it's not providing revenue or, even brand awareness for what they're trying to accomplish. I was a little surprised at the outpouring that I saw on Twitter today of people being sad that Vine was leaving, because my understanding was the reason it's leaving is no one uses Vine anymore. But there were a lot of people who, posted their favorite Vines from the last couple of years. And I have to say, I got a little, I certainly wasn't crying as I saw some people doing about Vine, but I did get a little bummed. I was like, you know what? There are some good videos on here that made me laugh and that I shared with friends at the time. And it's too bad that there's, that's going away. But unfortunately, no, I don't think it's a major surprise. And I think it's probably something that had to happen.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I wasn't surprised either. But the thing is that those people making creative Vines can go make creative videos on Snapchat or on Instagram, because that's what they've been doing.
Right. And if you go, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, if you go and you look at these profiles of the Vine stars or of the Vine creators, every single one that I saw has posted today saying, super bummed that Vine is going away, but check out my bio and follow me on YouTube and Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook, right? So it's not as if they aren't prepared for this. They all have, backup plans and basically have already been, I'd say actually Vine was probably the backup plan for them at this point. I think most of them had moved on. So Vine stars aren't going to disappear. It's just where you watch them.
Yeah, I mean, Vine had really kind of not supported a lot of these a lot of these creators in ways that other platforms were, primarily monetarily, marketing, really kind of driving their ability to create a brand for themselves and make money off of it. Vine has been, sorely lacking in that regard. So of course they've looked at other platforms. And it proves, like you were saying, all you have to do is announce that something's going away and people get interested in it again. So I don't know, that maybe that's a lesson to learn for somebody else.
Yeah, they should have threatened to take it away.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, well, I'd said, everyone's upset about Vine right now, but wait an hour until the Apple announcement happens, and then everyone's going to be talking about that. So
Yeah, I don't think it was coincidence that Twitter happened to announce a bunch of bad news the same day that Apple had its event that tends to take a lot of attention.
Yeah, they didn't even wait until the end of the day, which is what usually happens. They were just like, let's rip off the Band-Aid.
Yeah, let's do it early.
Yeah. All right, Kurt Wagner, always awesome getting you on the show. Thanks for taking time out of your day to talk to us about Twitter. Where can people follow your work?
Yeah, thanks for having me. You can read all my stories at recode.net, along with those of my colleagues, and I'm on Twitter at KurtWagner8.
Awesome. Thanks again, Kurt. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye.
See ya.
All right, Matt Schultz wrote in regarding the discussion on the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's policy guidelines for safety and security in light of the Internet of Things DDoS attack last week. Matt writes, there is one major escape clause in the NHTSA policy guideline, and I suspect any IoT security policy is fine print. The NHTSA document mentions the, quote, lifetime of the device, which the corporation could define. Vehicles and IoT devices don't have an expiration date printed on the box, and not everyone tosses them because they are an older model. I still drive my 11-year-old car, but I'm sure Ford would like me to consider it's time for a new car. Yet even if I purchased a new car, I would still resell it, and it would still be on the road. Even Google's vaulted Nexus and Pixel phones are only guaranteed updates for 2 years. Sure, 80% of people replace a phone after 2 years, but what about the other 20%? Additionally, many of the 80% will resell an older phone and give it to a family member, increasing the true, quote, lifetime of the device. In conclusion, although it is an improvement, we shouldn't celebrate vague statements about security updates for the lifetime of the device. If corporations feel that their security updates can be cut off, then maybe we should take a page from other consumables and post an expiration date on the devices. And that is a really good point. These things don't just stop. I mean, it rears its ugly head time and time again, especially when it comes to security and that sort of stuff. We see it. I'm sure you can agree, Ron. We see it all the time in things like Android and, on the Android ecosystem, where it's like these devices don't just go away. They're still around. So if there's something that comes along, that can exploit that, like what happened last week with the IoT DDoS attack, I mean, there's still plenty of targets, and they're never going to get updated probably.
Great example is how many computers are running Windows XP still.
Yeah, prime example.
Just because you cease to support it as the company doesn't mean that people aren't still using it. And the number of phones that are no longer supported, and the number of and as we continue on with IoT and as it grows and our devices become smarter, there's a responsibility to that, and they're going to stay connected. And so how do you handle that? And is that truly how Skynet is going to get into us?
Yeah, I mean, there's a responsibility there, but at what point is it believable for us to expect like lifetime updates of these things? Sure, they're going to be around forever, but do we expect the creator, the manufacturer of that, to keep it updated for life? Like, that would be a really nice feature, but that's a lot to expect, I think.
Right. And actually this ties back to Vine, because Vine's going away, Twitter might go away, stuff goes away.
Yeah, it's true.
And people who are creating content and thinking it would always forever be on Vine, it goes to show you it might not be. So, and just because you create a product and put it out into the world and then decide you're done with it doesn't mean the users are done with it. And so it's an interesting problem that I don't think we have the answer to yet. So we'll see how it develops.
For sure. All right, TNT's fan of the day is Mr. Josh Childs on Instagram, who sent us this Prisma image saying he watches, quote, TNT at the gym. And apparently does Prisma at the gym too. Maybe you need to be working out a little more.
You are very artistic looking in that shot, Jason.
I look very I don't know what the style of this is. I look very very kind of blocky. Apparently, like there's all sorts of like I think Facebook might be working on something along these lines. So Prisma started something. Super cool stuff. Thanks for sending that in. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Record a video, take a picture of yourself, your setup, post it on Instagram, Google Plus, Twitter, or Facebook. Use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we will find it, I hope. Eric Schmidt is analyzing the World Series, only it's not the Eric Schmidt that you're probably thinking of. It's Eric Schmidt, developer advocate for Google. Ron, you found this story. You're a much bigger baseball fan than I am. How is the Google Cloud platform and your dog being put to use during the World Series?
Yeah, sorry, the dog is spooked.
That's okay. It's okay.
The World Series has started, and I couldn't be more excited. This is like, it's amazing to see the Cubs and the Indians going at it. And I saw this article by Eric Schmidt, who is not the Eric Schmidt that we know of, but actually a guy who works at Google Cloud. And baseball is full of statistics, numbers, ERA, WHIP, all these sort of, kind of vague statistics. What he's doing is he's using a lot of the tools of Google Cloud, like Google Cloud Data Flow and Google Cloud BigQuery and Google Cloud Data Lab to import all the data he can from the 2016 regular season and postseason, which he got that data from Sport Radar, which gave him all this data to work with. And he's live analyzing the World Series, and he's actually set up a Medium account where you can follow it. It's medium.com/baseball on GCP. And it's more than live tweeting because it's a little more detailed, but he's using the data from the games and analyzing it based off the data from the baseball season to give you a visual look at what's going on in each game. And it's fascinating. If you're a stats and number guy, this is like porn. This is great. So it's great to see the intersection between data and technology and Google kind of supporting it with. And of course, this is just showing off what Google Cloud Platform can do. Right. But data viz and data visualization is so much fun, and it's neat to see it applied to baseball.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about sports and like statistics and all this kind of stuff, like it makes me wonder if like it makes me wonder if these can be used as like gambling tools. Like it almost seems like this is like the gambler's perfect tool for understanding kind of the stats of the past and how that correlates to the game that's happening right now. Is any of this happening? Like, is he updating it in real time along with a game on Medium, or is it all done posted after the fact?
All these Medium posts are happening during the first two games of the World Series. So you can go back and see what he was talking about. Like in the first game, he did a data viz of the impact of a runner on first for John Lester. So he's explaining what the situation is and then what. And with baseball, it's like you're right. I mean, it can't really affect gambling because anything can happen. As evidenced by 2 days ago was the 25th anniversary of Game 6 of the World Series when the ball went through Bill Buckner's legs and Mookie Wilson helped the Mets win the World Series. Although that game didn't win the World Series, that led to them winning the World Series. But no one could have predicted that the ball would have gone through Buckner's legs. Statistics would say 98% of the time he's going to field that play and make the out. And that's what you try to do when you look at these stats to say, okay, well, in this situation, this pitcher and this batter have performed this way. And it's great to see when basically with baseball, you're looking for when it goes out of the predictable area, right? Of when the thing that happens that isn't supposed to happen. And it's just, it's neat because baseball has got so many statistics and so many numbers and so much data going on to it. And all the teams are using this data now too. They're doing matchups when you're watching a baseball game and they're pulling the pitcher and putting in pinch hitters. That's all because they're playing the numbers saying, okay, this guy hits this pitcher better than the guy who's supposed to be hitting. So let's sub him in. Mm-hmm. And so this is kind of cool to see it open it up to just anybody who's curious about this stuff. And that somebody at Google is that interested that they're crunching it in a live basis like this. So
yeah, like you say, really kind of showing the power of the Google Cloud Platform and kind of the length to which you can take it. So I'm happy you were on to describe that because, wow, baseball is not my game, man. I like it, but I just don't follow it. So
love it.
Ron, always a pleasure getting to podcast with you. Thank you so much for coming on today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right. What do you want people to know? Where can they find you, all that stuff?
You can find me on a weekly basis, on every Tuesday with you, Jason, here on the Twit Network, where we're doing all about Android, talking about all the great stuff of the Android ecosystem, along with Florence Ion. It's been a very busy time I'm looking forward to as we ease to the end of the year.
It has been.
But You can also find me over at ifanboy.com, which is the home of my comic book podcast, where we talk about all things comic books on a weekly basis. We just released our review of Luke Cage, the new Netflix series. We were talking about Netflix earlier. So if you're interested in that, you can hear what we think of that, as well as the upcoming Doctor Strange movie. And follow me on Twitter. I'm twitter.com/RonXO. And I've got another podcast coming up that you're not going to see coming. And I think we're going to be launching like in a week or two or so. So definitely stay tuned to that. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Can't wait for the news to hit. Thanks again, Ron. We'll talk to you. Well, I guess I'll do this again with you on Tuesday.
Yes, I'll see you on Tuesday.
All right. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us. That's TNT@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW. Find us on Twitter. We're at Tech News Today TV. Twit is now on the Amazon Echo Flash Briefing. Every day you'll get updates on the latest tech news and events from Leo, Megan, and myself. To hear Twit's Flash Briefing, just make sure and go to your settings in the Alexa app, search for Twit, and subscribe. It's an awesome way to start your morning. I hope you understood what I said there. I just didn't want everybody's echo to wake up, so I'm looking out for you guys.
I love that you did that, by the way.
Believe me, we've got plenty of emails that have forced me to do that. Find all the ways to subscribe to our show at twit.tv/TNT, and if you want to tweet at me, I'm at Jason Howell. Thanks to today's technical director, that's Kevin, who also edits the video. Thanks to Burke for scrolling the words that we read on the screen. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Now it's time for an over-the-Skype high five.
Oh, we timed it off. One more time.